Money is rarely linked with the spiritual world. We picture businesses, houses, cars, luxury, and wealth. And many people, influenced by the warning that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, come to see money itself as something corrupt, tied to war, control, and the feeling of being trapped in systems we don't fully understand. When money always feels scarce in our own lives, it's easy to blame money itself. But Bitcoin has forced a deeper question. In trying to understand the value of Bitcoin, the code, the incentives, the computing power powered by real energy, we run into a much bigger mystery. What is money, really? That question is the entrance to the rabbit hole. And once you fall in, there's no real desire to climb back out. It's the orange pill, a journey into a reality filled with endless questions and no clear edges. Some people will take it, others will stay with the familiar world, even if it feels like playing music on the Titanic. If you've already taken that orange pill, support the journey. Like, share, and subscribe so this conversation can reach the people who are ready for it. Trade is the foundation of all civilization. It is natural and instinctive. From childhood, we negotiate, communicate, and exchange with one another long before we understand formal economics. We assess the needs of others, offer what we have, and receive what we want in return. This instinctive behavior is not learned from textbooks. It is a feature of human social intelligence. This is what we call barter. However, as trade becomes more frequent and communities grow beyond immediate family groups, the limitations of barter quickly reveal themselves. With enough repeated exchange, a more efficient solution naturally emerges. Money arises from this process. It is born from necessity, not government, not decree. Certain items begin to be held in reserve, goods people consistently rely on and readily accept, so that when opportunity arises, exchange can occur without friction. Salt is a clear example, used to preserve food, for cleaning, and in religious practice, and historically difficult to extract and refine. Salt possessed the essential qualities of money: scarcity, durability, portability, wide acceptability, and constant demand. Holding it in safekeeping to exchange for other necessities was not speculation, it was practical. Through this shared behavior, an order forms without instruction or design. No single individual plans it. Countless independent actors arrive at the same conclusion. Some items are worth storing because they can later be exchanged for what matters more. Throughout history, money has always been something with real utility, useful for real purposes, giving it genuine value and incentivizing people to hold it, trade it, and seek more of it. This is what we call spontaneous order, a system not imposed by decree, but one that emerges when the collective consciousness of humanity, acting as one, recognizes the same truth. This leads us to think of money in terms of commodities, physical items, things that are useful. But then the question arises, if money must be useful, why does it need to be a commodity at all? The answer is this. Commodities naturally possess the characteristics required to function as money. They carry the properties that make them suitable as a monetary instrument. This creates a paradox. We need money to behave in a certain way so that it can be used as money, even though we are not using it for the purpose it was originally created for. Early economists understood this. They recognized a paradox of human society. Money emerged spontaneously, yet it appeared that in theory it could be designed more efficiently through conscious intention. Gold had been used for thousands of years as money and, until recent times, was the most successful monetary instrument humanity had ever known. But in 1971, Richard Nixon chose to depeg the dollar, severing the link between gold and money and granting the United States the ability to expand its power by creating value simply through printing. Throughout history, paper money was accepted only because it could be exchanged for something real, something with intrinsic value. That connection to reality is what allowed paper notes to become money in the first place. We knew the paper itself was worthless, yet we trusted it because of what it represented and what it could obtain for us. Money has never been useful beyond this role. At the heart of this system was a quiet contradiction. We treated something with no practical use as valuable because we trusted the promise behind it. Our survival instincts demanded that this promise remain dependable. Then comfort turned into complacency. We trusted the experts and stopped asking questions. We allowed so-called professionals to manage our time, work, and energy through their control of the monetary system. And our reward, endless wars, permanent debt, rising energy and housing costs, and a wealth divide not seen since Victorian Britain. So, what are the real issues? What are the underlying problems? How did the mismanagement of money shape the pressures we live with today? To answer that, we have to return to the most basic question of all. What is money? It began as a commodity. Then we realized it was an idea, and over time, it became a tool of control. When you examine long-term trends, GDP growth, debt expansion, marriage rates, education outcomes, patents for new inventions, or almost any measure of an economy's productive capacity, a pattern begins to emerge. Around 1971, the trajectory shifts. After more than a century of explosive growth in living standards and productive capacity, many of these trends begin to deteriorate and move into long-term decline. Why? Because in 1971, Richard Nixon ended the dollar's link to gold, effectively closing the gold window. From that moment, governments gained the ability to create money without hard limits. This extraordinary privilege allowed the United States to finance ever-expanding global influence, reinforcing its position as the world's leading power. Money was no longer backed by anything tangible, only by government promise. It shifted from being a tool of collaboration, trade, and value preservation into a tool of control, backed only by political promises. The public, of course, pays for this money creation through inflation. Inflation is a dilution of purchasing power, like pouring water into wine, weakening its strength and utility. Governments are not creating value out of nothing. They are creating value out of you. For every loan issued, every round of quantitative easing, and every bailout, new money is printed, and you are forced to absorb the loss. Your consent is not required. As money weakens, you must work longer to afford the same goods and services. The items themselves have not changed, only the energy required to obtain them has increased. In 1971, a loaf of bread cost 25 cents. Today, it costs around $3. What once required 9 minutes of labor now demands closer to 25. Despite enormous gains in technology and productivity, the average person must now expend more time and energy simply to meet basic needs. Viewed through this lens, the illusion becomes clear. Governments do not create value from nothing. They extract it, quietly extracting your energy in what is arguably the most elaborate systemization of slavery ever constructed. One that would make the transatlantic slave traders of the 18th century look like amateurs by comparison. Again, if you find this content interesting and want this message to spread as far as possible, please like the video, share it with your friends, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Now, back to the video. Let's go back to the core question. What is money? Money is not a commodity. Paper money has not been linked to any commodity for decades, yet we continue to use it. Nor is money simply control. It is used to survive, to build, and to maintain, but also to share, to gift, and to transfer value between people. In its truest form, money is energy. Your energy expressed in standardized units of account, made portable, divisible, and durable so it can be exchanged for what we need to live. The form money takes changes as technology and societies evolve, but the energy within it remains constant. Money has always represented what we value, held with enough trust that we are willing to expend our energy to obtain and keep it. In this way, money allows us to transport energy through time and across space. The better money functions, the longer it preserves value and the further it can travel. Nearly 4,000 years ago, the Babylonians used a system strikingly similar to our own. Their money was not paper, but clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform script that recorded debts and obligations. Once sealed, these tablets became legal instruments, valuable not for the clay itself, but for the access they provided to real goods. Holding a clay tablet, like holding a banknote, was simply holding a promise, and that promise has always been backed by energy. Only through work, through the expenditure of human effort, can anything be obtained that grants access to money. Whatever form money takes, it remains inseparable from the human energy required to earn it. Satoshi Nakamoto understood this. He recognized that money, at its most fundamental level, is energy, and that people hold money because of what it grants access to. That access must be earned through real expenditure. This is why Bitcoin's mining process is essential to the protocol. Without energy being spent to acquire it, Bitcoin would have no honest link to real value. But we do not value energy for its own sake. We value energy for its utility. A miner who expends energy extracting gold from the earth produces something durable, scarce, and useful to society. That once ethereal energy, now transformed into a tangible gold bar, becomes valuable because the outcome has lasting utility. By contrast, someone who spends the same amount of energy digging a random hole in their garden creates nothing of lasting value. The energy is real in both cases, but only one produces something society wants to preserve and exchange. Energy is everywhere, but only energy that creates utility becomes valuable. This is where Bitcoin shines. After thousands of years of monetary evolution, Satoshi understood the characteristics money must have. Bitcoin was designed with these qualities built directly into its foundation: portability, fungibility, durability, acceptability, and a fixed supply. Only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist. More importantly, he understood that a new monetary system could only succeed if it were adopted voluntarily. It could not be imposed by vote or enforced through coercion. It had to emerge through spontaneous order, grounded in an objective understanding of human incentives and behavior. So, how did he do it? How did he get nations that distrust each other, Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, to agree on Bitcoin as money? The answer is incentives. What binds people to any agreement is survival, and our natural tendency to expend a small amount of energy in exchange for a greater return, like a shopkeeper who buys for one and sells for two. There had to be an incentive. The first was protection, protecting your energy and preserving the value of your work. This idea was clear from the very beginning in the Bitcoin white paper. Early miners could use minimal processing power to mine Bitcoins at little cost, betting that others would recognize the same problems and adopt Bitcoin as a solution. That phase succeeded, but a new question emerged. How do we know Bitcoin is secure? Bitcoin's security comes from global agreement. Computers around the world must follow the same rules, and only broad consensus can change them. In its early years, Bitcoin attracted people on the margins who were searching for change. These early miners were ideologically aligned with its purpose. They were motivated not only by profit, but by the desire to protect the network, contributing computing power that strengthened the protocol. As more people recognized Bitcoin's potential, adoption grew. More people bought Bitcoin, more miners joined, and many became wealthy. Eventually, the old guard of the financial system took notice. They did not join for ideological reasons. They were already rich and had long benefited from money creation. Their motivation was profit. And yet that same profit motive, the force that has shaped nations and societies for centuries, was repurposed to strengthen the very system that challenged it. They mined Bitcoin. They bought Bitcoin. They cared little for the cause, only the return. Ironically, their incentives strengthened the network, increased its security, and drove its value higher. In searching for digital gold, the financial system began, unknowingly, to undermine the foundations of the old one. In less than 2 decades, some of the most powerful nations on Earth now hold Bitcoin in reserve, just as ancient societies once held salt, for the same reason, to protect the future and secure access to the resources required for survival. For the first time in human history, the energy we expend, our time, effort, and labor, can be stored in a form that cannot be diluted, altered, or taken without our consent. Our energy no longer needs to pass through intermediaries who weaken it, repackage it, or siphon it away. It can be held directly, transferred freely, and preserved honestly. Money, once again, becomes what it was always meant to be, a faithful record of human energy. And in reclaiming that, we reclaim something deeper: trust in our work, sovereignty over our time, and the freedom to carry the value of our lives into the future without fear of quiet theft.